So today we're going to be talking about the Rodney Reed case. I'm going to be telling you guys the whole entire story of what is out there, allegedly, supposedly. And then at the end, we will be talking about how I feel about things. And I'm going to be telling you guys some things you may not have heard about the case before. Before we get into it, I do want to let you guys know that this video is only to report on the news and have healthy conversations. This is a very public case. You can find information on this anywhere with a quick Google search. While we talk about this, please remember to be kind to everybody, everywhere, in your everyday life, in the grocery store, in your home, and especially in the comment section down below. Please do not show hate to anybody, anywhere. Good morning, my lovelies, my beauties, my friends. My name is Christina and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you will subscribe, stick around, take a chance on hearing some things that I have to say. And if you are a returning subscriber, y'all already know, y'all are my babies. So good morning, good morning, good morning. How is everybody doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. So today we are going to be talking about the Rodney Reed case. I have been requested to do this video more times than I can even keep up with. I kind of held back for a while because I really wanted to dive deep into all of the accusations and all of the parts of the case that I could personally find. So please stay to the end if you guys want to hear my personal opinion on everything. I do want to let you guys know that this case does have quite a bit of harsh details. So here is your trigger warning now. Be very, very careful with that. This is kind of a hard listen to, and it's a very sad situation for pretty much everybody involved. So let's just get right on into the story and exactly what happened. In April of 1996, Stacey Stites was working at a grocery store. She was working in the produce department. Stacey Stites was described as like a really happy, outgoing, friendly young girl who had just graduated and was on her working adventure. Stacey had a lot of friends and people that loved her and cared about her. She was very close with her mother and had, not too long before this situation happened, gotten engaged and fell in love with a cop named Jimmy. Stacey decided to move in with Jimmy. So Stacey and Jimmy got an apartment on the second floor of this apartment complex, and Stacey's mother moved below them on the first floor. They were all very, very close. Stacey loved her mom, talked to her mom every single day, and worked at this grocery store in the produce department. Stacey would get up really early to go to work, like before the sun came up. Like she would have to be at work at 3:30 a.m. And she did that because she worked in the produce department, so she needed to get things ready and prepped and, you know, everything stocked for the day. Now, even back in 1996, Stacey knew that she needed to be safe. So every morning when she had to go to work, she would drive to work. She would drive Jimmy's truck because, see, Jimmy had a little red pickup truck and Stacey didn't have a vehicle. So Jimmy, when he had to go to work, he would drive his cop car and she would drive his little red truck. So she would drive to work, she would park in the parking lot and wait for one of her friends that she worked with to come over to her, and they would walk in together because it was dark outside and she wanted to be safe. This was her routine every single work day. She did it faithfully every single time. Stacey was known to be very punctual, if not early. She was always on time, she was never late, and she would meet her friend or friends, whoever it was that day, and walk inside. Well, this particular day, Stacey did not show up to meet her friend outside to walk in. And her friend that she worked with became a little concerned, like, where is Stacey? She is never late, like, where is she? But he went ahead and went on inside and, you know, tried not to pay too much attention to it. About 5 a.m. this same morning, a police officer saw Jimmy's truck parked in a high school parking lot. He noticed it was a little odd for it to be there that early in the morning, so he went over to the red truck. He looked around inside of it. He saw some junk or whatever in there, but he didn't see like a busted window or like any kind of blood or anything like that that would be super alarming. So he noted it. He ran the license plate, saw that it wasn't reported stolen or missing, and he kind of just went on about his day. As Stacey still didn't show up for work later on, you know, 5:30 came, 6:30 came, he decided to call Stacey's mom to tell her, hey, Stacey didn't show up to work today. And Stacey's mom, Miss Carol, was like, what? she's gone, she left, like, where is she? And he was like, I don't know, I haven't seen her, like, where, she's not here, truck's not outside, I don't know where she is. So Carol, the mother, of course, became upset, and she called Jimmy right above her on the second floor. Jimmy supposedly got so, you know, frantic, like, where is she? He started running down the stairs, and he went to go look for Stacey. He went to go look for the truck. He was looking for his fiance, like, where is Stacey? Jimmy went on his own little search, and he said he could not find anything. He couldn't find her. He didn't know where the truck is. He didn't know where she was. Eventually, all the cops were looking for her. Jimmy had reported it. She was missing. Nobody could find Stacey. Around 9 a.m., the cop that was at the high school and the other police officers put the 2 and 2 together with the truck being parked at the high school. So they towed Jimmy's red truck to a place where they could investigate it. They were looking in it. Eventually, Jimmy showed up. He was looking around in the truck. He noticed that there was a shoe in there, one of Stacey's shoes that she would wear to work, as well as something that he said looked kind of like saliva and a piece of a belt, and just like just little things that were not usual. Like, where was her other shoe at? You know, she should have that shoe on her foot. And why does there look like there's saliva right here in the truck? Jimmy looked in the truck, but he didn't touch anything. He was instructed, look, but do not touch. Not long after that, a man who was a realtor that was on his way to work was driving down the street, and he saw over in this grassy, kind of wooded area, what looked like a body laying there. So he pulled over, he got out of the truck, he walked up slowly, and he saw, indeed, there was a woman's body laying there. She was missing her shirt, she was missing a shoe, you know, there was like other little random things around, so he called the cops. When the cops came and they saw this woman's body laying there, they immediately started investigating. Now, unfortunately, from what I understand, allegedly, the cops didn't do a very good job with collecting evidence. They were touching, sometimes they were touching things with gloves, sometimes they weren't. And anybody that knows when you're investigating, you have to be very careful so you do not contaminate the evidence with your DNA or other DNA, or maybe possibly rub something off. There's literally videos showing them sometimes touching things without gloves on. They also just threw a blanket over her body, which there contaminates all of the evidence as well, because, you know, blanket particles or maybe a hair from a blanket or whatever can fall off onto her body. They just did not do a very good job with collecting evidence while her body was laying there. The things that they did notice while her body was laying there was that she was missing one of her shoes that we've spoken about, and on her foot that she did not have a shoe on, she had on a white sock. The other foot she had on a full sock and a shoe, but the white sock on the bottom of it, it was clean, it was not dirty. So from there they could tell that her body had been dropped there, because she obviously did not walk, or that white sock would be dirty on the bottom. They noticed that she was partially dressed and what looked like maybe her zipper had been broken. So then from there, the body gets taken to have an autopsy done. The autopsy report showed that she had belt marks around her neck. It showed that she had been strangled by a belt. That was the cause of death. But they also found that her head seemed to have been hidden in it. So somebody hit her in her head and then strangled her with that belt. There was drag marks on her back, like her body had been drugged. She had bruises all over her, and her fingernails had been cut all the way down, so they could not get DNA from underneath her nails. So right then and there, they felt like the person that murdered Stacey knew what they were doing in order to cut her nails all the way down to get rid of the DNA. They also, because of the way her pants had been ripped and she was partially dressed, they knew that they needed to do an R kit on her to see if she had any DNA inside of her. And indeed, they found DNA inside of her front part of her and in her back part of her. The autopsy showed that Stacey had died around 3 a.m. that morning. She was strangled by the belt, hit in the head, and then had semen in her in the front and in the back. The investigation went on like crazy. There was a $50,000 reward that was put up for anybody that could give enough clues or bring a suspect to the forefront for Stacey's death. I mean, the whole entire town knew about it. It was a very small town. Everybody loved Stacey, so word spread like wildfire. They investigated over 100 people about this case, and they had 28 suspects that gave up DNA to see if it matched what was found inside Stacey or not. When all of those leads came to an end, Jimmy, her fiance, became the #1 suspect in this case. See, Jimmy had a reputation of being kind of like a rough cop. He was also considered to be a person that did not like people of color, that he was a very, very R word, I can't say that word, but did not like people of a different nationality or color than him. They never searched Stacey's apartment, which was kind of like a loss, the investigators, but they felt like there would be no need to search Stacey's apartment because of course Jimmy's DNA is going to be all over everything, and of course his DNA is going to be all over Stacey and all over the truck because they were engaged and in a relationship and living together. But when Jimmy became the #1 suspect, he took 2 polygraph tests and he ended up failing both of the polygraph test, and after he failed the second one, he went and hired a lawyer and chose to plead the 5th. Now, to be fair, polygraph tests do not hold up in court because they are so faulty, but it does kind of make you wonder, like, to be fair, again, I think that if I ever take a polygraph test, I will probably fail it because I am so anxious. My heart would be racing. They could literally ask me, is your name Christina Randall? And it would be like, and I would fail. Okay, so that's how I feel. But he's a cop. He's trained to be calm under stressful situations. So I don't know. You guys make your own opinions on that. Another thing that was really suspicious that happened was after Jimmy got his truck back from the investigation and after they were done collecting evidence and DNA and stuff from the truck, he immediately went and traded it in. Now, a lot of people think that that is really shady because why would you immediately get rid of the truck? But then at the same time, maybe he doesn't want to have that memory of his fiance who was brutally all of this stuff. When they were investigating Jimmy of course said that he was at home asleep, which he was at home asleep whenever Mrs. Carroll called him. Now, Jimmy's truck was found 30 miles from his house. So there's no way Jimmy could have done this to her and then just walked back from the truck. They did check any kind of taxis or any kind of rides or anything like that to see if he had taken a taxi, and they could not find anything to see how he would have gotten from 30 miles to the truck all the way home in bed by the time Carol called him that morning. Some of the things that they talked about was on the Dr. Phil show. Dr. Phil talked about Rodney Reed, and on there, one of Stacey's friends that she worked with said that Stacey said that she was afraid of Jimmy and that he would get kind of violent and crazy and stuff like that. And, you know, so we don't really know. There's also rumors that went around that Jimmy used to tell people that if he ever found out that Stacey slept with a man of color, that he would take her out, if you know what I mean. So there was all of these rumors and commotions of like who Jimmy really was. Like maybe he pretended to be this man that loved her so much and wanted to marry her, but maybe he was also behind closed doors a different type of man. Now, how do we get to Rodney Reed being a suspect? Well, when they tested the fluids that was inside of Stacey's body, both front and back, it matched up with Rodney Reed. See, Rodney Reed had been accused by another 19-year-old woman of R-ing her, and when the woman went to report him, they had to take DNA samples, and it matched Rodney Reed's. So now Rodney Reed became the #1 suspect. Another thing that was very interesting is the truck that was parked at the high school was found within walking distance, just a few blocks from Rodney Reed's home. Now, Rodney Reed has maintained his innocence this whole entire time. He's been in prison for decades, okay? Rodney Reed ends up going to trial. They find him guilty because of the DNA. That is the only thing that they said matched up was the DNA. And he got sentenced to death. Now, the things that kind of make this kind of wonky is because when they first started investigating Rodney Reed about this case with Stacey, they asked him if Rodney Reed knew Stacey, and he immediately said, "No, I don't know her. I don't know who she is." Well, then when they told him that his DNA matched what was found inside of Stacey, then he said he was in a secret relationship with her, but did not want to tell anybody because he knew she was engaged to a cop that had issues with people. And you got to remember, this is back in Texas, back in 1996. So things were maybe a lot different then. I don't know, I've never lived in Texas. Maybe it's the same, I don't know. And so therefore, immediately when they asked him if he knew her, he said no because he was scared. Well, the jury, which I will note was an all Caucasian jury, found him guilty and they sentenced him to the death penalty. Since this, on the Dr. Phil show as well, Stacey's friend, the same one that I was telling you about that told Dr. Phil that Stacey was scared of Jimmy, and you know, every time Jimmy would come into the store when Stacey was working, Stacey would get real nervous. She said that Stacey told her she was in a relationship, a secret relationship with Rodney. And her friend said she told him, girl, you're gonna get in trouble. Like, if Jimmy finds out, he's gonna go crazy. And she said that every time she talked about Rodney, she felt happy and she looked like she was, you know, happy with him and enjoyed being with him. But every time Stacey talked about her fiance, Jimmy, she got real nervous. So that kind of makes things questionable there. Like, was Stacey in a relationship with Rodney? Was this consensual? Was she seeing Rodney behind Jimmy's back? Or, I mean, this is just getting a little bit out of control. So there is the story. Now we're going to talk about some other key facts. Jimmy, after she passed away, had been accused multiple times, Jimmy, her fiance, of trying to R people or R-ing people. As a matter of fact, he was sentenced to prison for 10 years because supposedly, allegedly, he pulled over a woman as a cop. He pulled her over and then he took her in the car, took her to a like remote area all alone and told her that she had to get out of the car and dance for him. And she ended up eventually getting away and was sentenced to prison for 10 years for that. So he was known to be this really shady cop that did really shady things. Now, some of the things that I have to tell you guys about Rodney, okay? Rodney, as we know of, was accused. Okay, it was never convicted or found guilty, was accused of by 6 different women for R-ing them and hurting them in these ways. 6, okay? In 1995, an intellectually disabled woman said that she was abused by him and R'd by him. You know, the 4-letter R word. Sorry guys, I gotta keep it clean. The next accusation was from a 19-year-old young lady who said that she was grabbed from behind by Rodney, drug into the bedroom, and taken advantage of. Now, Rodney denied this. He said he didn't know her, he didn't know any of that, but when they tested the DNA, and the DNA came back that it matched Rodney, Rodney admitted to having relations with her and said that she wanted it, that it was consensual. So that's kind of like makes you think like, okay, it's kind of like the same thing that happened with Stacey, right? Like, you know, he said he didn't know her, and then when the DNA matched, he said, oh yeah, we did do it. So, but none of this he was convicted of, none of this he was proven guilty. These are just accusations, okay? Something to think about. Later, a 12-year-old girl who was at home alone, sitting on her couch watching TV, said that he came inside, grabbed her from behind, pushed her down, blindfolded her, and R'd her in multiple different ways, biting her on the cheek. The 12-year-old girl also said that he hit her in the head and was calling her all of these terrible names while he was doing this to her. Then the woman that Rodney dated for years and he had 2 children with, okay, 2 children, later said that Rodney would hit her, call her names, abuse her, and also took advantage of her, once also while she was pregnant and one in front of their children. There was also a woman who was walking home alone one night, said she was grabbed and taken advantage of as well. The last one, and the one that I think probably makes me question everything the most, was a 19-year-old woman who is now even speaking out online and on the news and stuff, who said she was driving one night and she stopped at a convenience store to use a payphone. She said that Rodney came up to her and asked her for a ride. Now, you guys got to remember, this is back in 1996. So, you know, you give rides to people and stuff like that back then. And He said to her, "Can you take me up the road just about a mile or two?" And the young girl thought to herself, well, everything's kind of lit up. Yeah, it's at nighttime, but this isn't a lit up, you know, really public area. There'll be people there. She said Rodney jumped in the car. She told him, "Sure, I'll give you a ride." They were driving. He was telling her where to turn, and he tried to get her to turn down this like dark alley. And she was like, no, no, no. She turned around, and she said when she did, Rodney grabbed her by the back of the hair, pushed her head down into the steering wheel, and started like yelling at her profanities. And she was saying like, "What do you want? What do you want from me?" And he said, "I want a BJ." And she said, "I'm not giving you a BJ. You'll have to kill me first." And she said that Rodney said to her, "Well, I guess I'm gonna have to kill you then." There was a struggle, and then a car started pulling up. So she was able to get out of his grasp, jump out of the car, and run. And supposedly Rodney took her car, drove it, dumped it somewhere, and ran off and left. He fled the scene. Well, she was able to pick Rodney out of a lineup. And she said immediately she knew it was Rodney. She would never forget. She picked him up immediately out of the lineup. I do want to note again that Rodney was never fully charged and found guilty for any of these accusations. Rodney maintains his innocent for all of those as well. As a matter of fact, Dr. Phil kind of touched on it very briefly and said, yeah, you were accused of other things. And Rodney, you know, just kind of said, well, people were out to get me, you know, and stuff like that. But I don't know, it makes you think. Another fact about this case was that the truck that was Jimmy's, that was investigated in, they said that the way that the driver's seat was way back, and it looked like what they thought. A 6'2" person was driving this truck, and it was around about the same size as Rodney was. Now, to flip the other side, at the murder scene where Stacey's body was found, they found 2 beer cans. And on the 2 beer cans was the DNA of Jimmy's other cop friends. So there's a bunch of like theories going around that his cop friends knew that he was going to do this, allowed him to do this, and they're the ones that picked him up from the crime scene and drove him 30 miles back to his house. But it does make you wonder, like, if they went so far as to cut the nails down so there would be no DNA, why would they be so sloppy to drop 2 beer cans? I don't know, but the beer cans were there. Maybe when they were dragging the body out, they fell out of the truck. It was dark. You know, if a can falls on grass, it's not going to make a loud noise like if a can falls on cement, right? So maybe it was an accident. Maybe it was them. Maybe it is true that Rodney was in a relationship with her. Another thing that was very bizarre was when they did not find any DNA of Jimmy inside of Stacey. Jimmy said that they were not having relations at that time because she was on her cycle and at risk of being pregnant. Well, if Stacey was not even having relations with Jimmy at the time because she was worried about being pregnant, why would she have unprotected relations with Rodney? You know what I mean? But at the same time, it does make you wonder, because if Jimmy was this abusive person that she was really scared of behind the scenes, maybe she just told him that as an excuse because she wanted to have relations with Rodney. Maybe he is the one that she enjoyed being with. You know, I know sometimes, you know, women can be known to say, oh, I don't feel good, or oh, it's that time of the month, or whatever, if, you know, they're mad at their man and they don't want to do anything. And maybe that's what happened. There's just so much about this case that makes you go, What I will say is that I do believe, now these are my opinions, I do believe that Rodney deserves a fair trial, okay? If we're going to end somebody's life here in America, because we do things a certain way here in America, anybody that's gonna get life in prison or anything, any kind of time deserves a fair trial with all of the evidence to be put on the table. And Rodney did not get a fair trial from what everybody is saying. Of course, I wasn't there. I don't know. Everything is alleged. Everything is just alleged, okay? But he deserves a fair trial. I don't know what to think, you guys. There is so much like theories and speculation that points to Jimmy and points to Rodney. I'm glad that he's getting a fair trial though. And you know, the other 6 women that accused Rodney of these heinous crimes, if those are true, okay, those are their own cases. If Rodney did those things but did not kill Stacey, he does not deserve to be on death row, because he is on death row for killing Stacey. He deserves to have his own trial for those women, for those types of things. So, and that's just the way the law works. I do personally find it hard to believe that that many different women that do not know each other, it's not like all 6 women were best friends and got mad at him and all came up with these fabricated stories. I do find it hard to believe that 6 different women would say the same exact thing, say he did the same exact things to them. But then again, I don't know. It's all alleged. I wasn't there. Maybe they are all setting him up. Maybe they are all making, you know, lies on him for one reason or another. I don't know, you guys. It's a very, very disturbing case. I know that. And I will be following along with the trial. Hopefully the trial is going to be public the same way like with Botham Jean and, you know, Ezra McCandless. That way I can watch it and give you guys all the tea so you guys don't have to watch hours and hours and hours. So I don't know, you guys. It's crazy. It's so crazy. So many different theories, so many different things make sense. It makes sense that Jimmy could have done it. Oh, and another thing that I didn't tell you guys is there was a guy that was in prison with Jimmy that came forward and said that Jimmy admitted to him that he killed Stacey. Now, that could very much be true, but I do also know that sometimes when people are in prison, they will make up things in order to cut a deal. I mean, even Nick Yaris admitted to doing that himself. He said that somebody that he knew, you know, did this to killed this woman in order to hopefully get a deal and get out of prison, but that ended up backfiring on him. So people do that. But at the same time, Jimmy didn't have a reputation of being like a great cop, okay? So I don't know. I can't make a decision on how I feel. But once again, the only thing that I'm glad about is that he's going to get a fair trial. And then whatever comes out of that fair trial with all of the evidence in one place, we will see what happens from there. Whew. Crazy, 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 crazy. All right, my loves. You guys let me know what y'all think in the comment section down below. Please remember that if somebody says something that you disagree with, or you don't agree with, or you have a different of opinion, please be kind. Please be nice to one another. This is a very touchy subject and a very sensitive case. And, you know, let's just be kind to everyone. And let's also wait before we make our final opinions on the trial when all of the evidence is out there for everybody to see. At the end of the day, there are families that are involved in this. You know, Rodney Reed has children that love him very much. That's their dad. You know, his mom, that's her son. You know, they deserve to see him get a fair trial. And then also Stacey's family, who, you know, some of them believe Rodney Reed and some of them don't. And I think that everybody needs closure in this case. So let's make sure to be kind and considerate to everybody. As always, my loves, please don't forget to like this video. It's a free way that you can help your girl out. And until next time, I love you guys so very much. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Search for